Hi, and welcome to the VR Gaming Podcast, a podcast and commentary about VR gaming, VR news, VR hardware, and VR reviews. I'm your host, Nick Lane. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you guys had a really nice holiday. It is Wednesday, January 8th, so we're 8 days into 2020 after coming off of a really, really good year for VR, which was 2019. Can't say that enough. What a great year 2019 was. And we talked about that last month, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. Maybe not at all. We're looking forward at this point, right? What is next for 2020? Well, my 2020 in VR is kicking off on the right foot with something exciting. I'm excited right now because I got shipping confirmation from Valve that my Index is coming tomorrow. So the stars have aligned. I don't have any meetings that I have to be at physically tomorrow, and I can work from home, so I don't have to reschedule with FedEx. So fingers crossed right now that FedEx doesn't mess up, that they actually get out of their truck and try to deliver it. I've heard horror stories where that doesn't always happen because when you get a Valve Index, you got to be there to sign in person for it. Allegedly, you could leave a note at the door, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, this is a $1,000 headset. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that. And I have to just make a confession to you guys. I didn't play a lot of VR in December. It was kind of like a sabbatical from VR. I'll talk about that. There's gonna be a kind of a news segment analyzing why sometimes can't get motivated to play VR. Nothing bad. I think it's just a fact that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. But let's start off with the news. So I already talked about my favorite news, which is getting the Valve Index tomorrow. So I'm gonna hopefully have some time to spend with it tomorrow. I think I've got to do a pinball stream, so maybe Friday is the day that I really get to play around with it. But hopefully it's working. Hopefully there's no issues. Hopefully I can just get up and running and start enjoying it as soon as possible. I had ordered a VR cover for it, so that's in place. I'm hoping that I can mount it in my game room or my VR room without screwing anything into the wall. I got like these, these clamps that can go on these curtain rods. So we'll see. I got to play around. I'm a little nervous about the setup, or a little nervous about something going wrong with like the sensors not fitting right, or just being able to work the way I want to do it, because I try not to drill holes in the wall. But whatever. I'm excited right now. So fingers crossed that everything goes smoothly, and that next time I'm talking to you guys, I have nothing but good things to say about the Index. I'm sure, like what I did with the Quest, I'm sure I'll do a special review episode of that. Not that there aren't enough opinions out there about the Index, but if you're like me, you'd like to hear what people think of it. I can't sort of read enough about that. I like to take people's opinions in and learn about their experience with that piece of hardware, considering it is the most expensive consumer one that we have right now. And arguably the best, but not without its faults. So again, excited. And I had ordered this, I think, on December 3rd, so I had to wait. I've been waiting. I didn't know when it was going to come out. When I ordered it, I thought it was going to come in December. Then we learned that they're out of stock, and I'd have to wait till at least January. So I'm glad that it's early in January. I just found out today, so I'm really excited to start playing around with that. Speaking of which, this kind of rolls over into the news. The Index has been sold out, and sold out maybe a couple days after Thanksgiving. I think a lot of people were waiting for the Black Friday sales, and then they rushed to order it. Plus, you have Half-Life being announced, so it's been sold out. But that's kind of old news. We talked about that last time. What's interesting to me is the one of the episodes that the Valve News Network put out, and it's from what they're suggesting, what they're saying. I think this makes sense that Valve was surprised that when they released Half-Life VR, they were surprised by the positive reception. I mean, that blows my mind. That blows my mind. And I think this is true because the Index has been sold out, and if you order now, you're not getting it to at least February, and Half-Life comes out in March. So that tells me they weren't prepared for this. They weren't prepared for the onslaught of all the VR orders. Now, they had to have anticipated that, some people are going to be ordering it right when it was released. So they had to have a stock that they were like, sure, we feel comfortable with it, especially around the Christmas season. We've got enough to fulfill orders because the thing came out in June. All right, so plenty of time to build up that inventory. I think there was some concern that maybe they were underselling a little bit. All right, but obviously Valve wasn't prepared, and we've gotten a backlog of orders. So if you're waiting for it, sorry, it's a bummer. Who wants to wait when you got a toy that's supposed to be coming on the way? I sort of magically timed this right because one of my goals early on, I think I said this way back in the July podcast, is that I wanted them to resolve the issues with the clicking on the controllers and hopefully the drift. I'm not confident that that's been solved at all. But clearly because they ran out of stock, these are all new batches of Valve indexes or indexes, whatever you want to call the plural. So I'm confident that I should at least get a controller that clicks in all directions, which is somewhat important. And I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that that stupid stick drift issue has gone away. Like I said, last time I have a horrible prediction that it's going to break as soon as Half-Life comes out, if it does indeed come out in March. So we'll see. But I think Valve messed up a little bit. It's a little weird and disconcerting how in many ways they're projecting into the future and embracing a future technology like VR, but in some ways they seem to be so out of touch that they're surprised by this. Speaking of selling out, the Quest has been sold out. I guess, I don't think Quest, I wouldn't say messed up by being sold out. I think it's just selling so damn well that it's just going beyond everybody's expectations, and that's awesome. Looks like orders aren't going to be filled until February in the U.S., if I understand correctly. So if you're in the U.S., you're kind of that sucks. I think in other areas, January, you'll get an order for a Quest, but that's really good for Quest. Quest seems to be crushing it from what we can tell. And anytime you hear these anecdotal stories, you share Quest or even VR in general, somebody who's never played it, and they're just blown away, right? And now they can go out and actually buy something. There's not that's awesome, but I can't buy an expensive gaming rig. I don't have $1,400 to buy a computer that can just run VR and then, $400 for Rift S. No, a lot of people have $400 or $399, and they can go out and pick it up. So fantastic time for VR. That's good news. It's funny how I guess the Valve being sold out is good news too. This is all good news. Don't get me wrong. I'm more or less analyzing that I think Valve messed up and being a little harsher on them in this case. But I love you, Valve. I'm excited for Half-Life, but it's too bad you don't have enough indexes in stock. So just be patient. Okay, let's sorry, not to trash. Let's go on and talk about Valve a little bit more in relation to Half-Life not being shown at the Gamer Awards. So those awards happened in early December. Valve was supposed to show off gameplay of the new Half-Life Alyx, and it didn't happen. And again, according to the Valve News Network, it was because they didn't have smooth locomotion really fleshed out into the game. They're still working right now on smooth locomotion. So this game, when it was designed, it's been in production for 3 years, had been designed around teleport only. Again, we covered that. They're just adding in smooth locomotion now. And the speculation is that, Boneworks came out, and Boneworks got this huge positive reception. There was like over 8,000 reviews on Steam. I mean, it just sold phenomenally well. A lot of praise for that game. And Valve, the last thing they want to do is show this teleportation game at this awards and be criticized left and right. So I agree, it's a smart move. They made it smart. It sounds like it was a very last minute too. If the Valve News Network is to be believed in, it sounds very believable. It was a very last minute decision to not show that footage, and that is, to me, that's a good move. But it's disconcerting that Valve is so out of touch that I understand back in 2016, okay, teleport was a thing back then, but they're working on this game for 3 years. 2017 starts rolling around. We see other games like Onward embrace it, and it works. Pavlov's using it. These are games that are played by a ton of people. And now every game that's released now that I can think of that I play has a option for teleport, but also smooth locomotion. And it seems most people in these games use smooth locomotion. So how did Valve not see or notice that? Right? It's like these two competing things. Like Valve is forward-looking, and they're really embracing VR, where so many companies, so many AAA companies are sitting on the sidelines and just kind of watching what's going on and not jumping in. Valve is jumping in. Valve is future-oriented. They want to have it now. And yet mess up so bad that they think, oh, yeah, this game is just, it's a teleport game. It's a teleport-only game. And then in the final hour, scramble to try to throw in smooth locomotion to it. The other fear is that there's that basic fear that they're out of touch in that sense. Like, geez, if they're out of touch about this, what else are they getting wrong? The other fear is that if this game was designed around teleport, well, if you design a game around teleport and then suddenly you add in smooth locomotion, does that make it too easy? Right, when you're kind of dancing and strafing around these enemies? Will the experience be as good if it was designed one way and then you kind of tack on this other way to play? I don't know, because they're supposed to release this in March. Now, maybe it gets delayed because they realize that this is not good enough, but if they delay it, it's going to lead to more problems. So I said last episode that I have all the confidence in the world Valve is going to deliver a great product, but that issue is a little disconcerting because I don't want to play a teleport-only game. That is so 3 years ago. It's so old. It's just not fun. It just feels like an old, antiquated thing now. Most of us can do smooth locomotion. Yes, games should have teleport in there for folks who are new to VR or the folks that just cannot get over motion sickness, and I feel bad for them. But for most of us, smooth locomotion is the answer, and that's the way the game should be played. We'll just have to wait and see. So I mentioned Boneworks came out. That was the big news back in December. Got a lot of praise. It's like overwhelmingly positive, very positive on Steam. Most things are going to read are positive. Oddly enough, I didn't get the game because I didn't have the Valve Index, and if I play the game, I want to play it on that because it is designed around that. Not that you need it, but I think it'll be better on the Valve Index for all indications. This, though, when I hear that the game is kind of like a sandbox game, those are like keywords that I focus on them, think that maybe that's not a game for me. Like, I am the weird person who feels like I'm on a different planet because everybody loved that Blade and Sorcery game. Blade and Sorcery was such a big deal. So many people are spending hours in it and talking about how amazing it is and the physics. I get into it, I'm like, this is like a tech demo, dude. There's like no game here. It's not even a good wave shooter. It's like half implemented. Like, sure, there's some physics, but like at the end of the day, I'm the kind of person that I need a good game. Whatever that means in terms of a game, but there's got to be a gaming element to it. Ideally, I'm progressing through a story that's interesting and engaging, right? I guess that's what makes it a game, or there's some points to be scored or levels or progress. I was playing Until You Fall, and Until You Fall is a fun game. I got that last month. And, there's not a story to it really, but it's a game. It's not a tech demo. It's a game. You're progressing. You're trying to get to the next level. And that's missing in Blade and Sorcery. So I'm a little skeptical of Boneworks because I know it has a story in it, but it sounds like the story is tacked on, right? It sounds like the priority for Boneworks is make an incredible physics engine in VR, right? Because so many people seem to want that. Okay, great. But all right, well, let's put a story in there too. Those are priorities that I'm not in alignment with. Now, all I can do is get it and try it out for myself. But in reading between some of the lines and listening to people whose opinion I kind of respect or can relate to, it just sounds like it's not going to be for me. But then again, maybe I'm the weirdo because I'm like the one guy who might be disappointed by that. So we'll see. I'm excited that Boneworks has garnered so much attention and people are excited about it. I'm excited that it's pushing kind of immersion in VR through a level of physics that is unseen in other games. I don't get such a high on physics. Like, yeah, I want the physics to be good. I want to be interacting with all the objects, but I don't want it to come at a cost to fun, right? Like, if you have to cut corners and make something less realistic, but it makes it more fun or more game-like, then that's the corner I fall into. Again, maybe I'm analyzing it too much for not having personally played it, but that's my. I'm not super hyped about Boneworks like I should be, like everybody else has been and was leading up to it. I'll probably pick it up when it goes on sale, kind of deal, and delve into it. What I am a little more hyped about though is Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners, which is coming out January 23rd. It's going to be $39.99 from Skydance Interactive. So this game looks like a 10 to 15 hour game. It is a game. There is a certain open world aspect to it, although I don't know how large that is, right? It looks like you have some freedom in the game. That looks really good. The graphics look amazing on it. It's got physics in it, probably not Boneworks-esque or as much, but it looks like something that's like more up my appetite. The only thing that I heard that's a little disconcerting about it is that there's like a stamina system in the game, and my God, the stamina system in a game like Creed, where it kind of artificially makes you tired versus how you feel as a player, that's a little worrisome. I can only hope that they know what they're doing and they've made this game fun. So we'll see. But I'm hopeful that this is a good game, because that sounds like a great game to tie me and a lot of other people over until Half-Life comes out in March. Like, what a good time. You pick up Saints and Sinners, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners in January, you play it, beat it, and then boom, Half-Life Alyx comes out. That's awesome. That could be a really good start. That could be the first big hit of 2020. So I'm saying this expression a lot, fingers crossed, but fingers crossed for this. That's a game I'm really hoping is good, because I don't have anything else on my radar that I know of that I'm excited for before Half-Life Alyx comes out, and I'd like to have some games to play. So I don't know. Maybe I will have to pick up Boneworks just to tie myself over. We'll see. All right, this isn't news so much as it is sort of like the commentary section of this podcast, if you will, but I found something that I wanted to talk about that I thought was pretty interesting. So a week or two ago, there was a post on Reddit in the virtual reality subreddit, and I saw some people on Twitter commenting on it, and it kind of encapsulated what was going on in my life at the time. And this comes into I didn't play VR much in December, so let me read just the question that was posted in virtual reality. This was 9 days ago, I believe. All right, it says, does anyone else feel lazy and unmotivated to use their VR, but once you do, you don't take it off for hours? That's a really good question. I can totally relate to that. This is no new news, but there is a barrier of entry. Even when you have VR, there's more steps to actually getting into VR versus maybe playing a game on Xbox, which I spent a lot of time in December doing that. So I can only give my experience with that, and I'll try to answer back how I can relate to that comment. So I've been kind of going strong and playing a lot of VR the last several months. It's been awesome. I've been grabbing games as much as possible, really hitting it hard. Asgard's Wrath is taking a lot of time. Then you got Pistol Whip. I mean, it's been so good. Come December, or like maybe a little after Thanksgiving, I got into I play flat gaming, if you will. You know, I didn't totally abandon that, and I've got an Xbox One, so sometimes I play Overwatch because I have friends who play that, and to me it's a big draw, playing with like my brother and friends. And then they got into Dead by Daylight, and that hooked me as well. So what I find is that I get pulled away from VR when there's a compelling game that's in a flat screen game that I can play with my brother and friends. And unfortunately in VR, there's not a lot of good multiplayer options. Like Pavlov is great and it comes up, but okay, that's like one game. That's not to say that there aren't other fun games in VR, but look, flat screen gaming, if you want to play multiplayer, that's where it's at. Especially the ease of playing in Xbox, right? It couldn't be easier. Hitting a couple buttons and then suddenly you're in live chat and playing with your friends. It connects every time, like super easy, super fluid. My preference would be to play a game like Dead by Daylight or Overwatch in VR. I would love to do that and to play with my friends, but those don't exist. And the other problem is most people still don't have VR. And it's going to be a number of years until VR is as prolific as everybody has like an Xbox or a PlayStation, right? So I have way more people to play with on 2D gaming than I do in VR. I have a limited number of people who actually not only do they have VR, but we have the same games, and then you can find the time when they're available to play. It's much, much more difficult to do that. So that's when 2D gaming wins over. It's when I can have that social experience with friends, and especially people that I don't see on a daily basis because they live in another city. That's what draws me away from it. I don't struggle so much with like getting motivated to put the headset on and fire up the computer. My if I want to go right now and play VR, it would take me less than 5 minutes to get in there. Everything's kind of hooked up and ready to go. I think the only lag time is obviously the computer booting up, and if I put the headset on right now because it's not plugged in, it would fog up a little bit. But that's it. It's not a big deal, right? And when I'm in there, I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. It's like I fall in love all over again every time I put VR in, and I'm like, how do I even spend time 2D gaming? But I forget that love, right? Because there are some obstacles. There's some things that we just can't do in VR as easily as we can do in 2D gaming. At least that's my perception of it or my experience. So I'm hoping that 5 years from now, this is a different conversation, a different story, where most of the people that I'm talking about wanting to play games with, like, they're over in VR, and we have a lot more of a robust VR multiplayer because those experience is just so much better. I started kind of taking a sabbatical from VR because the other reason is I knew my index was coming, so I was like, I'm going to cool down for a while on VR, and I'm going to get to some 2D games that looked interesting but I never played. So I got like the Xbox Game Pass, and I played like the Banner Saga, which was on there for free. A game I normally wouldn't play, but it's free. It's on there. I was also off for a week and a half for the holiday, so I played that. I played Resident Evil 7. I'm actually just playing that now because I do like horror games a little bit. I'm starting to really get into them actually in VR. And I was always curious about that game because it got good reviews, but I held off on playing it because I was always hoping that it would come to PC VR. I think it's safe to say it's not happening at this point in time. Of course, maybe I just jinxed it, so you're welcome if that's the case. But I was like, okay, I don't think it's going to come out for PC VR. Let's try it on 2D gaming. I was also curious to see if this game would scare me, because people say, oh, this game is really scary, right? Like, it's got great atmosphere and sound and blah, blah, blah. I have a great setup for 2D gaming. I've got a 100 screen, a projector. I've got Atmos speakers. There's like 9 speakers in that room, okay? It's great. It sounds great. So I'm playing this game, and I got to tell you, I've probably put in, 3-4 hours, and like maybe one time I had like a jump scare, but I'm not scared playing that game. I don't know if that game's not really that scary, which could be one thing. But what I suspect is that playing a horror game in VR is so immersive, and it's so frightening because you feel like you're really there, that when you go and play a 2D horror game, it's like a joke. Like, it's just so, there's such a gulf, there's such a distance between you and then what's happening in the game, where in VR, you're in the damn game. You are in there. Your body, your lizard brain is tricked when something pops out, is tricked that it just popped out in front of you. It is frightening. My hands in a VR horror game sweat when the tension is there, and it's frightening. I cannot play, what's the game called? Dread Halls. I cannot play Dread Halls for like more than 10 minutes because that game is a masterpiece in just creating atmosphere and, as the name implies, dread. Whereas on a 2D gaming, I'm in my living room, dude. I'm on the couch, right? I'm 12 feet away from the screen. There's other things going on in the house. I'm not really there. I'm perfectly safe on my couch. How could I possibly be scared of what's going on the screen? It seems silly. So, for all of our friends out there who play a game like Resident Evil or any other horror game on PC or console and haven't tried a horror game in VR, if you really want to have some fun with them, I suggest finding a game like Dread Halls and throwing them in there, especially if they're a VR doubter or say it's a gimmick, and just watch them crumble. I think that would be hilarious. But hopefully that hopefully I can add to that discussion. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that question that I raised about having trouble or feeling motivated to get into VR, but once you're in there, you want to be in there for hours. I can totally relate. Every time I play VR, every time I play it, without fail, I'm just like, that's amazing. That feeling, sure, it's not like the first time I ever went in there and was just blown away because I didn't know what to expect. But every time I play VR, I'm like, this is amazing. Especially because I still play 2D gaming, and I can just see how lacking it is. So here's to kind of fast forwarding into the future when more people have it. There's better multiplayer games. I can't wait. All right, that is enough for the news. That's quite extensive. I'm going to jump over, and we just got one game to review for this month because it's, like I said, I didn't play a lot. I did forget that I played Until You Fall. I could review that, but I'll save that for the future probably. All right, so this game that I'm going to review, I have to thank a listener of the show. So he had reached out to me. He's a MAME fan, MAMEFAN on YouTube, and he had reached out to me just to kind of have kind of a back and forth. I think he listens to also my Pinball podcast, so thank you. And he also was kind enough to promote this podcast in other venues. So check out his YouTube channel. It's really good stuff. There's stuff of him playing VR and talking about VR headsets. I think that's where I first learned of him. Anyways, he was suggesting, because he knows I like pinball, asking if I checked out, I think, like Pinball FX2 VR. So I'm not really a fan of the Pinball FX games, and I love pinball. I have 14 machines in my basement. I just got a Deadpool pinball right before Christmas. It was my Christmas present to myself. So that's another reason I wasn't playing a lot of VR, because I got a new pinball machine. So yeah, I love pinball. I love pinball, and at one point in time I was ranked 200 someone in the world, and that's slipped because I have not been traveling for competitions. But I love pinball, and I know a lot about it. So video pinball to me is cool in the sense that it actually helped me get into real pinball. It was the gateway drug to real pinball. But what I love about real pinball is that it's real. It's not a video game. You know, we've spent so much time looking at screens at work. We play video games. We play VR. If you're a gamer like me, you want to take a break sometimes, and you can play this amazing game it's real, right? So video pinball doesn't play a part of my life anymore, but I was super curious about pinball in VR because I love VR. I love pinball. What happens when we mash the two together, right? So enter Zaccaria Pinball VR, and I decided to get the Zaccaria Pinball VR because most people probably don't know a lot about pinball, so I'll explain this. Zaccaria was a pinball company. I think they were in existence from the 1940s to 1987, but the thing is, they're an Italian pinball company. They were an Italian pinball company. So a lot of the machines they produce, no one's ever seen them in the U.S., right? Or like, I've played a few of them just because they've been in really large collections. It's not a common thing. So for me, this was a chance to play games that I just normally can never get my hands on, whereas like a game like Pinball FX3's the recreations of like Williams and Bally games, or Pinball Arcade's doing Stern. I have access to those. I can play those games any day by collectors or tournaments, or I own some of them, right? So Zaccaria Pinball VR seemed interesting to me. And I actually got this game for free, but I would have paid the price for it because it was on the winter sale, was like super cheap. So right now, if you were to buy it, this is actually it's weird. It's kind of like you got to buy the base game, and you buy it like per table. So they also have packs on Steam that you can buy. I don't have the base game price in front of me, but the VR DLC that you got to download to play VR mode is $14.99, which, to be honest, it's a little steep when you consider you got to buy other things to play that. I don't know. Maybe it comes with some free tables. I just got like access to like all the games. I got hooked up by Pixel Magic because through my work in pinball, so they were kind enough to do that. Thank you guys. But anyways, the Zaccaria Pinball is listed as coming out on October 17th, 2016 by the company Pixel Magic. I don't know when the VR mod or portion came out, and I think VR might also be in beta. Not sure. But What's cool about Zaccaria Pinball, one thing, is that they do have multiplayer. So I was able to play I was able to go in VR, okay? And I have friends who have this on PC for Steam on their computers, this flat screen, and I could play with them. So that's really cool. I mean, this is not an expensive game. So this is a game that you can play with your flat screen friends, and you just connect through the internet. It's not even it's not local multiplayer. Like, you just connect through multiplayer. So that was really cool. All right. So the overview and objective of the game, well, it's pinball, and there's a lot of tables to choose from that you can download and pay for. So it's pinball. I mean, that's the overview. But what's cool about this is that they have different modifiers and ways to play it, like different kind of achievements to try to go after and unlock, challenges. They have put a story mode in there where you play through like the history of the machine. So what I like about this is that they've put a lot of options in there. There's a lot of content to kind of not only through the sheer number of tables, but the way you can play the table and approach the table. There's a lot there. And the graphics in this game in VR just looked really good. I mean, I don't know what my expectation was, but it exceeded it, because that's the first time seeing pinball in VR, and pinball is a passion. I've spent so much time with it, so I was impressed. I like the idea of being able to like lean in and look at the fine details on the table. You can even read the kind of rule cards on the machines. You can kind of really get in there, and the quality of the machines, they just really shined. The level of detail was there. It looked very real. I'm very impressed by that. Very impressed by that. Playing pinball in VR, even though I would never play like on 2D anymore, it got me playing video pinball, which is something I thought I would never do again. That's just how good it is in VR. So even if you're not a huge pinball fan, I think that people can certainly appreciate this game. Like, I wasn't a huge pinball fan, but I got into pinball just because I randomly downloaded Pinball FX 2 on the Xbox back in 2010, and lo and behold, look at me now. But I think it's really cool. I think they've done a really good job with that. The sound is fine. I mean, the sound is the pinball sound. So, these are older games. There's a lot of times chimes or rudimentary, basic 80s video game sounds, right? So it is what it is. Not much more to say on that. The controls of the game, I'm using Windows Mixed Reality, right? So I can just pull the triggers to flip the machine. That's fine. I think it would have been cool if one of the most important things in pinball is being able to nudge the machine, right? To be able to shake it so that you can save the ball from going in the out lane, or just kind of move the ball around and control a little bit better. It's perfectly legal to nudge the game. If you nudge it too much, you tilt, all right? And a tilt just means you lose your bonus and lose the ball. You shook it too much. And when you have a pinball machine, you can actually set the sensitivity, but it's perfectly legal to nudge it. It's part of the game. You need to do that. So the way you do that in VR is just like, I just hit the trackpad or whatever, and it shakes a little bit. If they're really going to do a good job in VR for this, they should have this physicality to it. Like, I should be able to see like my VR hands, and I should have to hold my hands on the machine, to flip the flipper buttons, right? And when I need to shake it or nudge it, I should have to physically move my hands to shake it like I would a pinball machine. That would be amazing. That's what you really, if you really want to do this right, if you really want to make a game that you're like, oh my God, they're really recreating an experience. The real experience in pinball is you're touching the cabinet, you're holding the cabinet, and you have to shake it and move it at times. That'd be awesome, but it's not in there. So controls are all right. Controls are just whatever, pushing the button. Not amazing. They could have done more there, but I am, to be honest, just grateful that there's a VR mode in Zaccaria Pinball. So my standards are pretty low right now. Immersion kind of folds into everything, because, like I said, it was so cool to see these games brought to life that I normally don't have access to right in front of me, to zoom in and move my head around. I can walk around the cabinet and look in details. One of the cool things in pinball is typically, like, pinball has interesting art a lot of times. And while Zaccaria machines in general aren't maybe the most fun games, they're okay. They're all right, and the art's okay. It's still really cool, and the immersion was great. when your friends are playing the game on, a multiplayer game and it's their turn, you can see them playing. There's not like an avatar that represents them, but you can see like the ball move around. So I kind of just step out of the way, like, somebody's actually at the machine and watch them play like I would in real life. There's good presence there. It's pinball works quite well in VR, I got to say. And then one thing this game does well too, and it's important. I talked about this like in relation to Asgard's Wrath, but this game offers a lot of options, a lot of like graphic options in VR, and a lot of VR options. It seems I really like the job that they've done there. That you can really tweak the graphics and make sure it's looking good for not only performance, but you can make the glass kind of look like dirty, like if you're like in a bar, right? Or you can make the glass like perfectly clean, like if it's in my basement and I've just cleaned it, Windex on the glass and all that. So I really appreciate that. They could have just, shrugged their shoulders and did a half-assed job with VR implementation, but it's pretty good. I had to say that sometimes I've got little wonky bugs that sometimes my like controllers act as like laser pointers in the game, or like a laser pointer kind of comes out on it. It's just a little weird. It kind of gets hung up like I'm in the menu system, but I can still play. That's rare, not all the time, and it didn't prevent me from playing it, but it's worth mentioning. So overall, I think the price is a little high for this, but I'm not saying it's not worth it because there's a lot there, and you can buy tables on a table-by-table basis. So if you just got a couple tables and the VR, you might be, I don't know, maybe like $20 or something like that. I think it's totally worth it. And like I said, there was a sale during the winter sale, and the VR DLC was like $3, and like a bunch of tables, like a lot of tables were like $7, like a basic pack. So if you're interested and you think the price is too much, fine. I would definitely put it on your wish list and wait till it goes on sale, because trust me, at that sale price, it does not hurt to grab it. You're gonna have it. You're gonna get your money's worth no matter what. But you might be surprised at how much time you spend playing it, and it's a nice way to learn how to play pinball, because all pinball machines have their own rules, and this game will kind of explain what the rules are. You can go into the menu. We'll tell you kind of what to shoot at, what your goals are, how much they're worth, and you get to compete against other players. There's an online leaderboard, so that does it for me, being able to compete against other people. So again, thanks to MameFan on YouTube for kind of nudging me to try pinball in VR. It was fun. It was a good experience. Okay, so out of 10, I would give this game an 8, which on my rating scale is a solid game. It's a solid game. I think, like I said, if they really wanted to blow me away and just kind of have me super, super impressed, just add the hands in there, make the table something I can move around and push around. Give me the ability to nudge, because it's VR, and that's something we can do as compared to 2D gaming. So this is the edge that you can give it. All right, well, listen, that's going to do it. I'm happy to do yet another podcast. I'm happy to kick off 2020. I'm excited for the Valve Index. I hope everybody got some good games. I hope if you're new to VR, welcome. Thanks for listening to me talk about VR. If you want to give me some feedback, you want to reach out to me, you can email me at vrgamingpodcast@gmail.com. You can also catch me on Twitter. I'm there. Just do a search. I think it's I don't even know. This is how I'm out of shape, I guess, for 2020. But you can just search for VR Gaming Podcast on Twitter. You can connect that way, and we can dialogue. Tell me what's up. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me what's going on. And if you really want to be nice, I'm trying to grow this audience to make sure it's worth my time to do this. You can leave a review on iTunes, which will help people find this podcast, or you can share this podcast with other people, things like that. What the heck? It's a nice thing to do. And every time I see the numbers grow, I get encouraged and I say, you know what, I'll keep this up. So again, thanks everybody. Have a good 2020, and I will catch you next time.